All right, well, this Saturday, May 21st, we got a somewhat intriguing matchup in a rematch between Vanes Martirosyan versus Erislandy Lara. Um, I'm not saying this is a fight that really needs to happen, so I'm not incredibly excited about this matchup. There's a lot of other matchups that I'm much more excited about and looking forward to in the junior middleweight division. But, this is a fight we have ahead of us and gonna have to talk about it, I guess. And that's Erislandy Lara versus Vanes Martirosyan in the rematch. And in the first fight, back in 2012, I thought Lara was winning the fight up until the time before the fight was stopped and it went to a technical decision. It ended up being a technical draw in 9 rounds. Martirosyan was cut over his eye in the ninth round, and referee deemed that his cut was too bad for him to continue. Now, I thought Lara did start slow a little bit in that fight, and Lara does have a tendency in some fights to start slow. Not in all of his fights. I thought he got off to a pretty decent start against, Canelo and Austin Trout. I think, he did very well in those fights. And if he knows he can impose his will on a guy, he has no problem taking it to him and getting him out of there once he has him hurt. But there are instances where he will lay back, be a little methodical, and just wait for those openings to happen and wait for his opponent to make mistakes, and that's when he likes to capitalize and be the counterpunch role or play the counterpuncher role. And I thought he did that a little bit in the Martirosyan fight. I believe he thought that he could use Martirosyan's aggressiveness against him, and early on, it wasn't working for him quite well or quite as he wanted it to. But as the fight did wear on, after the third round, I thought from the fourth round on, I thought he started to take over, started to pot shot a little bit. And Vanes Martirosyan does do some things well. He's a decent fighter from the outside. He's got a good, solid jab, heavy-handed jab that can really push his opponent back and knock him off balance and keep him at bay at times in the fight. And he's got a pretty sharp right hand, but the problem that he does have is a lot of times when he'll throw that right hand, he'll bring that right foot forward and square up, and sometimes he has poor footing, and we've seen him go down and get knocked down because of poor footing in fights. Not necessarily because he was exceptionally hurt, but because of the poor footing. Now, Erislandy Lara can definitely capitalize on that. He has a way of just, landing those perfectly clean, sharp punches. I mean, when this guy lands, he lands so clean and so flush. Early on in that Canelo fight, I thought he was landing some real sharp, straight left hands. And you could see Canelo's head snap back, and you could see the bruising around the eyes developing. But in that fight, he did get caught with a good upper cut by Canelo, and the blood really started to flow. And I think that disrupted him a little bit in the fight, and it changed up his offense a little bit. I don't think he was able to see as good as he needed to out of that eye because of the cut. And credit to Canelo. Canelo, hit him with some good shots as well. But I still thought that he did the cleaner work in that fight, and he should have gotten the decision. I thought he put a lot of early rounds in the bank, even though he did slow up as the fight wore on. Now in this fight, I don't see too many surprises here. I think he's the overall better skilled fighter. I think he's the faster fighter. I think he's the more accurate puncher. He lands the cleaner shots. And I think he's definitely the better defensive fighter. And I think his legs are his best weapon for his defense. He's so quick on his feet and goes in and out, has great balance, always has his feet underneath him before he throws a punch. And, even though he moves a lot, he can stop and set and punch really quick. So it doesn't really take him long to get his feet set and put himself in good punching position and give himself the good punching angles that he usually does put himself in. Whereas Vanes Martirosyan, he's sort of a guy that likes to, stay on the outside, doesn't like to move a lot. He moves straight forward. There's not much sophistication to his offense. He's basically a 1-2 guy from the outside, and that's pretty much it. Now, I'm not going to minimize him because what he does do well, he does well, and it works against a certain type of opponent. But I don't think it's going to be enough against this type of opponent in Erislandy Lara. And, I think that Martirosyan has looked to slow up a little bit in recent performances, particularly against Charlo. He hung in there, but I just thought Jamel Charlo was just a little bit too quick for him, a little too athletic for him, and you could see him getting frustrated in that fight. And even against Ishe Smith, who's not a real world beater, with all due respect, at this weight class, especially at this stage of his career, he was able to hang in there and make that fight competitive as well, too. So I think he's lost a little bit, and Erislandy Lara is pretty much as good as he's ever been, even though he hasn't been in there with incredibly top opposition. But he has been in there with better names and has performed better at the top level than Martirosyan has. So I think speed is going to carry the day here. I think the cleaner, sharper work is going to carry the day here. And because Martirosyan has a tendency to bust up, it's very possible that this fight could get stopped in the later rounds. I could see Lara landing so many clean blows. Even though Martirosyan is a very game fighter, I can see him getting busted up in this fight, and I can see, the referee stopping this fight maybe in 10 or 11 rounds. And that's what I'm going to kind of go with here. I'm going to go on a limb. I'm going to say Erislandy Lara will stop the game Vanes Martirosyan in the later rounds. I'm going to say it's going to be a 10th round stoppage. All right, man. Looking forward to this fight. Not the greatest fight that can be made. Not really a significant fight that needed to be made, for this rematch. But it's happening, and we got to take what we can get, man. All right, until next time, thank you all for watching. Habeeb is out. Peace.